You're listening to Music Student 101. We've had plenty to say about scales. Now, for the 7 modes. Relax. You probably already know 2 of them. And as always, your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips, are here to walk you through it.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Matt, what's up, bud?
Not much. There's something that we kinda, sorta forgot.
Oh?
Or that we probably should have talked about by now, and it's something that lots of musicians have heard about and don't exactly know what they are. And they sound complicated, but they're really not. And that is the Diatonic Modes.
The modes.
Yeah. Can you believe it's been this long?
It's been a year. We're a year into recording.
We are a year in and have not even talked about modes.
Shame on us.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like classical music theory, classical music kind of ignores the modes for a good 300 or 400 years there, right? Until the 20th century. So, but popular music does not ignore modes at all. And in fact, knowing modes is number one. It is very important for your musical sensibilities, for your ability to understand musically when something is in a mode. And number two, it is very important to talk about musicians. Because I remember when I was a teenager, I would get Guitar for the Practicing Musician or something, and those guys writing those articles would talk about this solo they did that was in an Phrygian mode or something, and I would think, what are you talking about?
That's a big, long word with a whole bunch of
it's
consonants stuck together closely.
Yeah, it was really, really confusing. So, people like to talk in these terms a lot. So we should probably explain really what the modes are. And as much as they can sound complicated, they're really not. And really, they are something that we have sort of studied before.
Is there anything you would recommend we listen to if we're not listening to this in sequence that perhaps we should listen to before this episode?
Yes, I would. And even if you are listening to this in sequence, it might behoove you, just for your own sake, to re-listen to episode 5 on the major scales, and then episode 8 on the minor scales.
Right.
Particularly episode 8.
Okay.
On the minor scales, because in that one we talk a lot about relative minor and how to derive a relative minor and what it means to be a relative minor. A minor versus C major. That's a relative minor because they have the same key signature, right? And a different tonic versus the parallel minor, which is the same tonic, right? C major, C minor, D major, D minor.
That's coming back to me.
Yeah. So those two we seem to reference a lot, but it's big. We're compounding on information here.
And obviously, because thus far they're the most downloaded episodes. Did you know this?
I did not know this, but it honestly doesn't surprise me. If there is one thing a musician has to know, it's scales. If I had to pick one thing and said anybody who calls themselves a musician has to know this, I would say it's scales, no scales, because from scales you can learn so much other stuff.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, speaking of stuff that is like scales. So back in episode 8, we talked a lot about how we could take a major scale, like good old C major. Let's keep it simple for the time being. And how that represented a certain combination of whole steps and half steps.
Right.
Right? So it was, from C, it was whole, half, whole, half. Right? And then we also talked about moving down 3 half steps, right? And landing on A, but playing those same notes from the C major scale, the all white keys on the keyboard, just starting and ending on A. And how that shifted that pattern of whole steps and half steps. And in so shifting, we created a new scale that is the minor scale, A minor.
It harkens back my memory of the circle of fifths, where what we did was we took that C of the 12 o'clock position rotated the whole thing to where the A was at the 12 o'clock
Right,
position.
right. Yeah. So in both these examples, in both the major scales and the minor scales, we're counting up to the 5th scale degree, sharping a note, and then having a new major scale, the G major scale, or a new minor scale, the E minor scale. You know, and going around, like you say, the circle of fifths, doing that and creating new scales that have new key signatures, which have new sharps or flats in them. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the circle of fifths is still fresh on everyone's mind.
Hopefully so.
We just nailed that one.
Hopefully you didn't kill those brain cells, because the circle of fifths will continue to come up in the future. The circle of fifths came up even before it came up, we're now realizing, right?
Yeah. And speaking of killing brain cells, I think we mentioned we were all going to have a beer after that episode. So
And we did.
Yeah, we did.
And
so
it was great.
we killed some brain cells too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Although, they say now that that's a myth.
Oh, good.
That alcohol
Thank God.
doesn't kill brain cells. I know, right? I mean, it has to be, right? Or else we'd be dead.
We'd be dead, yeah.
Anyway, but digressions aside. So, we talked about the major scale, and we can move that. We can transpose is the word. We can transpose that around the circle of fifths and get a major scale starting on any note whatsoever. We talked about the minor scale, how we can also do that. The minor scale that's in the same position on the circle of fifths as the major scale is the relative minor. They have the same sharps and flats as that major scale.
Yeah.
Right? Turns out that first of all, it turns out that we now already know 2 modes.
Hey, 2 out of 7?
2 out of 7. We're already on our way, because the major scale is also the Ionian Mode.
Fancy way of saying it.
Fancy, archaic way of saying, yeah. It is the Ionian Mode, so we already know that. The natural minor scale that we got from moving down those 3 half steps and getting a relative minor, that is the Aeolian Mode. Same thing. Natural minor scale, Aeolian Mode, same deal, right? So A is Aeolian.
That's easy to remember.
Yeah. So we already know 2 modes, so good for us, right? Turns out that we can take that major scale, and we don't just have to shift it down 3 half steps to get the Aeolian Mode. Turns out we can move it all around the place. We can move it to any other note that is in that scale, any other diatonic note. So we can move it to any note in the C major scale. And when we shift that way, we then again shift that pattern of half steps and whole steps that is the major scale, and that creates new scales out of everything.
Okay.
So, for an example, just to show you what I'm talking about, I am going to start with good old C major, i.e. good old Ionian Mode.
No sharps, no flats.
No sharps, no flats. And I played that from C to C. Right? I'm going to take that same set of notes from C to C, no sharps or flats, all white keys on the keyboard, but I'm going to play it from D to D. And doing that, I have shifted that half-step, whole-step pattern and created a new scale.
It did have a different feel for sure.
It did, definitely. It has this... it has almost this medieval kind of... right? Kind of,
What was that? Where did I heard that?
Yeah, if any of you guys out there are gamers,
That's not...
and don't say it because we'll get sued.
Okay.
But you gamers out there know what I just played.
Matt and I are very careful about our copyright
We're
issues
very
because
careful
we know very
about it.
little
We
about
don't
it.
have any money. We can't get sued, all right?
Yeah, we don't know a lot of law, and we don't have a lot of money. So.
So this is this new scale we've invented, right? Or not invented, discovered, what have you. This is called Dorian Mode. It is the 2nd mode of the major scale because it started on the 2nd note of the major scale, right?
Right.
So that is, Ionian is the 1st mode. Dorian is the 2nd mode. You can probably see where I'm going to go with this. If I take those notes And this time, again, same notes from C major, but starting and ending on E this time. So the third note of the scale. We again have a new mode. This time we have the third mode, Phrygian.
To me, so far, the furthest removed from the sound of the major and minor scale.
Yeah, Phrygian has this great, it's got a half step between its first and second notes. And so people really kind of dig that.
Yeah.
If you're going to write music that's in the Phrygian mode, you kind of have to emphasize that,
Kind of exotic feel.
Yeah. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Right, kind of neat, huh?
Yeah, it's very neat.
Yeah.
And this is starting from scale degree 3.
Starting from scale degree 3. So this is the third mode. The fourth mode, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start on the fourth scale degree and just play from F to F in C major. Play that same major scale, the notes from that same major scale. And this is Lydian Mode, the fourth mode.
Yeah, I like it the way we're doing numbers too as we go.
Yeah. That's important.
But yeah, that was all.
Okay.
Good job, Matt. You teach well.
Oh, good. Thank you. So this is the fourth mode, Lydian Mode. Keep in mind, what I'm doing is I'm playing the same notes. I'm basically just starting and stopping on a different place. So I'm sort of shifting what we consider the tonic,
Right.
up and down. Some people will call it the final when you're talking about modes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because they think of the tonics having very special sort of roles in tonal harmony.
A sacred role.
Yeah. And this is just the note that the scale is starting and stopping on, so they call it the final. Final, tonic, what's important is that you know what we're doing, which is I'm just playing this same major scale, just starting it on a different note in that scale. And in doing that, I shift that, fingerprint of half steps and whole steps. I shift where the half steps are and create new scales that way. Mm-hmm. And create scales that sound different that way.
Yeah, different feels, different colors.
Yeah, exactly. Lydian has a very sort of airy, not real settled, kind of floaty,
And we're gonna take a little bit of time after this discussion and spend a little more time on each one of the ones and talk about how they make us feel,
Yeah.
Because we have a couple of examples in folk music and pop music we can cite.
Absolutely.
Carefully. Oh, so carefully.
Cite carefully.
But yeah, Lydian, man, beautiful. I really like that one. It's kind of meandering.
Yeah, it's kind of meandering. And yeah, like you said, we can talk about why that is. Right now, I'm just going to keep on going. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do the fifth mode, Mixolydian. And then the sixth mode we've already sort of talked about, Aeolian.
Yeah.
Because it is the same thing as our minor scale. And that leaves us with just one, the absolute weirdest one, the seventh mode, Locrian.
Yeah. So if you're using the keyboard and the scale is C major, you're starting off on the B for this Locrian mode.
Yes, right.
And it still kind of stands apart. It has that same Phrygian feel to it.
Yes.
Because it starts on that half step.
Yeah, it's still got that. It's also got this tritone here between its first and fifth scale degrees. So it kind of is never going to sound very settled. It doesn't really have a dominant, right?
Right.
Because it's not a perfect fit. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
Does the same thing occur with the Lydian?
The Lydian actually has a perfect fit.
Oh, no, that's right. It's a sharp 4.
Yeah, it's a sharp 4.
Yeah, okay. Never mind. Moving on. So, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian.
If you like mnemonic devices, I don't prefer large meals at lunch.
Aha!
Yeah. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. Our first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh modes.
Nice.
Right? And that's really all it is. Now, like we did with the relative minor scale, we can take any of these modes and transpose them around the circle of fifths. So I could take the Dorian mode I played and say, okay, well, D Dorian has no sharps or flats. Right? Mm-hmm. And say, well, I will count up to the fifth scale degree, A, and then sharp, F sharp, and then we will discover that there's a such thing as A Dorian. And I could go around the circle of fifths till I had a Dorian mode that started on any note whatsoever. Just like we did with the minor scales. And I can do that with Phrygian. I can do that with Lydian. There are 12 Dorian scales. There are 12 Lydian, 12 Mixolydian, just like with the major and minor.
One for every note in the chromatic scale.
One for every note in the chromatic scale. So that's kind of a lot, right?
If you think about it that way, right?
Yeah. So there's A Dorian, there's F sharp Phrygian, there's all of these things.
Just like there can be an A minor, a G minor, a C minor, whatever.
Absolutely. All right, so we have these modes. Right? We have these modes from the C major scale. However, just like we did with the major scales and just like we did with the minor scales, we can take any one of these modes and transpose them around the circle of fifths to get new ones. Right? So I can be in D Dorian. And, D Dorian has no sharps or flats, just like C major.
Yep.
I could count up to the fifth scale degree and be on A, and then add in F sharp from my order of sharps.
Yeah.
Right. And discover that there is, in fact, a such thing as A Dorian.
Yeah.
That's the F sharp right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go on around and around the circle of fifths and get a Dorian mode that starts on any one of the 12 notes.
And you're adding a sharp as you go.
And I'm adding as a sharp as I go up clockwise around the circle of fifths. As I go counterclockwise, I'm taking away a sharp, and then I start adding flats. Right, just like we did with the minor scales, right. Just like we did with the major scales. We can do that with Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, et cetera, et cetera. We can do that with any of these modes. So we've got 7 modes and 12 keys, 12 notes. So we've got 7 times 12 possible modes. They're all available to us. Right? Sounds like a lot, right?
Not if you consider the inharmonic equivalents. Then you have 24. Let's stick with 12.
Let's stick with 12. Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's kind of
This is easy.
This is easy.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 12 times 7 because we've got 7 modes.
Yeah.
The good thing is we've already studied 24 of them.
Hey, there we go.
What's 12 times 7? 84? So we've got 84 possible modes. But we've already studied 24 of them.
Hey, all right. Now it sounds a little more challenging.
So, rather than memorize 64 new scales?
This is the part we've been looking forward to.
What I like to do is remember that all of those modes were derived from some major scale, right? Because we just derived all the modes, Dorian, Phrygian, and everything from Ionian, aka the major scale.
Yeah.
So they're all derived from some major scale, and they're all going to be a relative mode of some major scale, meaning that they'll share that key signature, right? So I have a question that I ask, which is, this mode is the X note of which major scale? X being the number of the mode.
Okay.
Yeah. So shoot me out a random note with a mode attached.
Like a random note of the C major scale? Or any scale?
Any note, any scale. Just shoot out a note and a mode.
Okay, so we're in the key of... We're not in the key of anything yet.
We're not in the key of anything. Just shoot me out.
I can't tell you key
B Dorian, A Phrygian.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Let's shake it up a little bit. How about F Mixolydian?
F Mixolydian. That's a great one. I love that.
Okay.
So, F Mixolydian, F is the fifth note, because Mixolydian is the fifth mode, right?
Yeah.
F is the fifth note of what major scale?
That would be B flat.
That would be B flat, right? So we kind of had to think backwards along. If you have your major scales memorized, then you're ahead of the game on this, right? And you should probably at least memorize the major scales.
I answered that very quickly, but I did make a funny face as if I didn't know for sure. What I was
He squinted a little bit, but he was exactly right, so it's fine.
It wasn't pained.
Yes. F is the fifth note of the B flat major scale.
Okay.
Right? So F Mixolydian has the same key signature as B flat.
Boom.
Which is what, Jeremy?
2 flats.
2 flats, B flat and E flat. So in playing the F Mixolydian scale, I'm going to start on F. I'm going to make B into B flat, and E into E flat, and I have the F Mixolydian scale.
Ooh, I want to do one.
All right, do one.
Give me one, man.
Give me one.
Something.
Let's see if I can give you.
And then I'm going to edit out the time it takes me to think about it. Or maybe not.
Let's see. Let's do a Phrygian.
Okay. Now, because you said Phrygian, I know that we are, based on our cool little mnemonic device, if anything, that we are on the third mode.
Yeah, we're trying to find the third. We're trying to find a Phrygian, the third mode. Yeah.
And because we're in the third mode, I will walk back from that A.
Right. A is the third mode of which major scale?
That would be F sharp.
Sure about that?
Wait. Let me think about this. Hold on.
This is a very common mistake to make. But remember, we're not talking about the key of A major.
Right.
We're talking about whatever key A is the third note in.
Why did it make so much sense when you did it, and when I tried to do it, it didn't make as much sense?
Because you got tripped up on something that's very easy for people to get tripped up on. You're assuming A major, which is F sharp.
Right.
But A is actually the third note of which major scale?
A is the third note of which major scale?
Yes.
Oh, F major.
F, right.
Why did I say F sharp?
I don't know. No, well, I do know. That's easy because you were thinking of A major, in which F is sharp. Careful.
You could jinx yourself, man.
Yeah, that's a very easy mistake to make. But no, you're right. A is the third note of F major.
Okay, I'm not going to edit that out because that might be something important.
Yeah, good plan.
Someone can benefit from that.
Good plan. So, well, let's continue with this one though, yet, because we have A is the third note of F major.
Oh, right. Okay, so
Not done yet.
So we need to know how many of the key signature.
Yeah. So A Phrygian is going to have the same key signature as F major.
As F major, one flat.
Which is one flat.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play from A to A, but I'm going to add that one flat, which is B flat. Right? Sounded pretty Phrygian to me.
Mm-hmm.
Got that nice little half step down to the final or the tonic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Want another one?
Hit me. Challenge me.
Challenge you, huh?
Go easy on me. Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between.
Split the difference.
All right. Split the difference. Okay. Let's do B flat Dorian.
B flat Dorian.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Sounds complicated.
It sounds complicated, but this is gonna work. Okay, it's because it's Dorian. I know it's the second mode.
Second mode.
So all I really have to do is go down a major second.
B flat Dorian. B flat is the second note of which major scale?
That would be of A flat.
Of A flat, right? Yeah. Remember your key signatures and remember your scales, right? B flat is not in the key of A. If you went down to A, you'd have messed up.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But B flat is in the key of A flat, and it is in fact the second note. So what key signature am I going to plug in to get my B flat Dorian?
that would be A flat.
A flat. And the key signature of A flat has
Big Ed and Dan.
right. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat.
Like to go camping.
Yeah. Well, they like to go.
Camping
I
frequently,
remember those
something
guys.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Drunks.
Haven't
couple of
heard from
drunks.
those guys in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to play B flat Dorian,
Okay.
but I'm going to play from B flat to B flat, putting in the key signature for A flat, which is 4 flats. So B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat.
Very cool. What is it? Minor in the front, major in the back. Kind of the mullet. Party in the front.
Yeah.
What? Business in the front, party in the back.
Business in the front, party in the back, yeah.
There's your Dorian mode.
There's your Dorian mode.
Cool.
Yeah. Right, I see what you mean. Business in the front, party in the back.
The mullet.
I just got that.
The mullet of the modes, the Dorian mode. Do you feel like this is an okay time to get into the history a little bit, or
This is a great time.
talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the origins of? Because this actually predates major and minor scales, correct?
Yeah, you want to do one more exercise like this?
I
Just
could probably use it.
Okay, let's do one more. Do you want me to give you one, or do you want to give me one?
Give me one, man. I need
Give
this. I
me
need this.
one.
You know this.
Let's see if I can really screw you up.
Now that I get the concept.
Now that you get the concept, let's see if I can really just mess with you a little bit here. What about F sharp Locrian?
F sharp Locrian. Okay. We know that Locrian is the 7th mode,
Yes.
which in the major scale, it's like a leading tone kind of thing.
Yes.
That's inconsequential. Or is it?
It helps you think.
Yeah, it helps me think.
There you go.
Okay, so we know that the which Locrian? F sharp Locrian?
F sharp Locrian.
Okay, so then F sharp is gonna be the 7th tone, or rather, to me, in my opinion, the leading tone of whatever key it would be in. Yeah. So then that's basically G.
It's a G.
So that F sharp Locrian has the exact same key signature as G major,
Indeed it does. Which is what?
which is 1 sharp.
Which is 1 sharp. That F sharp that we're going to start on is the only sharp note that you're going to play. Right? So.
Do you think I explained my mental process to
I think you did well.
to the
Yeah.
expectations of our listening audience?
Yes, I think that was great.
Clean and clear?
Yeah. Not as difficult as it sounded like it was going to be, did it?
No.
Really just 1 sharp.
Well-
if I started to say D sharp Locrian, but that would have just been E, right? 4 sharps. We could have handled that, right? So you start to get how this kind of works, right?
I'm already getting more than I expected out of this episode, actually.
Yeah, see, there you go.
My hopes were they could just walk away knowing what each of these sound like and feel like.
Yeah,
you know?
and you get used to these, and you get used to doing that. And when somebody asks you to play an E Lydian, or A Mixolydian, or B flat Ionian, or B flat Dorian, or whatever, you can figure out what notes you need to play in right there, right?
Absolutely.
And you're not going to have to consult. They have big, huge dictionaries of
Charts and
charts
graphs.
and graphs and stuff to keep all this straight. But there you have it.
Shortcuts, baby.
Shortcuts. Love them. And that's not even the shortest shortcut.
Oh, is there more?
Yes, but first, you wanted to do maybe the history of the modes.
Well, I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just to give a little. We did promise history at some point in this.
We did promise history at some point, and we
So-
could start talking about
Because this goes back pretty far.
this actually predates the major scale.
That's
This
pretty
idea.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back. Shoot, how far back does it go? Do people even know? Do I even know?
Medieval times.
Medieval times. Well, I guess you could make an argument that it goes all the way back to Pythagoras. But
Greek mathematician?
The Greek mathematician Pythagoras, who discovered the overtone series and the ratios that created Pythagorean tuning, which was what we had before we had equal temperament. But I'm kind of digressing here. Definitely in the medieval times, this was the thing. What we now know as the major scale and what they would have known as the Ionian Mode was actually not super common. Nor was the Aeolian Mode, what we would know as the minor scale, that was also not super common. Like the most common ones were Dorian, for minor sounding stuff, and Mixolydian for major sounding stuff. And this is for a lot of reasons that have to do with the Pythagorean tuning. Because of that, because it was mathematical ratios and every half step wasn't exactly the same distance like it is today.
As you move up.
Yeah. Singing in certain keys kind of wouldn't work because as you sang from the lower octave to the higher octave, you would get off. You would miss that octave and you would get off. And so you would start singing out of tune. Yeah. So in the Middle Ages, there's really only 7 notes for one thing. There were not 12, there were just 7. And they were the 7 notes of the Mixolydian mode.
Okay, so that was the first, the most common, I guess, the first official.
Yeah. The 2 most common, Dorian and Mixolydian.
Yeah.
And, they didn't have just octaves going up and down into infinity either. There was just in medieval times, there was just a set range of notes, right? So, we could play Dorian, or we could play in what was called Hypo Dorian, which was Dorian starting on the 5th scale degree.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hypo
And this
Dorian.
is, and of course this became, what does that sound like to you?
Melodic? No, Aeolian.
Yeah, that's just A minor, so you can sort of start to see where it kind of came into being. And with equal temperament, the major and minor scales became a really big deal. Because you could play in all 12 major scales and in all 12 minor scales and have them sound similar, sound the same. Bach actually did that. He wrote 1 prelude and 1 fugue for every major and every minor scale.
The Well-Tempered Clavier?
Right, yeah. Then he did that again. So there are 2 books. So there are 48 preludes and 48 fugues. 2 of each for every major and minor scale. He did that because he can. He could at that point. Right. But before he did that, and before equal temperament, what we had were these modes, these church modes, and you would see Dorian, you would see Mixolydian, you could see Aeolian and Ionian. They did happen. Less so really Lydian, and Locrian to this day is not super common. So that's what we had in the medieval times. Equal temperament happens. Major and minor scale is all the rage. For several hundred years, right up until the 20th century, where the quote unquote old church modes started to sort of get rediscovered by composers and used again.
Okay.
And they became the modes we have today, which are essentially scales. Just scales based off the major scale. We would call them a cyclic permutation of the major scale.
Lord God.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
All right, let's so the church modes. You were saying Dorian.
Yeah, Dorian.
Mainly, and Mixolydian.
Yeah, they were the 2 most common.
And then I have here that the Phrygian and Lydian peeped their way in at some point.
Sure.
In this church modes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have the modes today, which are basically permutations of the major scale.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one. We've talked about one good, easy way to determine a mode, which I like to think of as the relative way of determining a mode.
Okay.
Being that it is the relative of some major scale.
And you're kind of using the circle of fifths process, so to speak, or the circle of fifths method somewhat.
Kind of more using that relative minor method kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But instead of counting 3 half steps down, I'm counting however I need to get the right number mode and the right scale. I'm thinking of it. I like to think of it as kind of a relative way because it's relative to some major scale.
More process based.
Yes. Kind of. The other thing you can do is the parallel way.
Okay.
Right. And I think a lot of people learn this way too.
I may have learned this way based on your description earlier.
Yeah. This might be a good point to start sort of putting in like musical examples of stuff.
Yeah. So, I'm going to try and play some of these examples as we go.
Yep.
If we can't get it on the spot, I'll go back in and do it later on, or you can do it on the piano.
Yeah, good plan.
And we'll just spend a little bit of time with each of these modes to kind of get a feel of how they sound when we hear them.
Yeah, get a little bit of a feel for how they sound. So the first mode is Ionian, and that's no big deal, right? That's just the major scale. We know what that's like. So can we play something in Ionian, Jeremy? Which is basically playing almost anything in a major key. Mm-hmm.
We've all heard Happy Birthday.
We've all heard Happy Birthday. I actually recently heard a better version of Happy Birthday, but I'll maybe post that to the Facebook page.
Nice.
Yeah.
If we did that in minor, it just wouldn't. That wouldn't be as celebratory. That would be weird when someone's blowing out their candles to that.
Yeah.
Here Comes the Bride.
Yeah.
Major.
Yep. And basically anything else you've ever heard that's in a major key is also in Ionian mode because they're the same thing.
Cheery, happy,
upbeat.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
That thing. Yeah,
that guy.
Absolutely. Then there is Dorian.
The second mode.
And if you don't like the relative way of Dorian, and saying, well, it is the second note of which major scale. If your brain doesn't like to work that way, you can also think of Dorian as a natural minor scale, but with the 6th note raised a half step. So rather than playing D minor, which would be D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, I can play D Dorian by playing D, E, F, G, A, B natural, C, D. Or I can play G Dorian by taking that E flat that would be in G minor and making it E natural. 6th scale degree, raise it a half step, and you play, and you're playing in a Dorian mode.
And again, that's the business in the front, party in the back.
Business in the front, party in the back.
The mullet mode.
Yeah.
That mode of the several Irish tunes that I've learned, most of the ones that you think are minor at first, and henceforth the Appalachian tunes that a lot of bluegrass came from.
Right, because there was a line of descent there from the Irish folk tunes into the Appalachian music. Yeah. A lot of the minor tunes you think are in a minor mode are actually in Dorian mode. Yeah. What have I said before? Dorian mode and 6/8 time are the two most important aspects of Celtic folk
Some
music.
of those jigs, yeah. And it made its way well into jazz music.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
One of the most common jazz standards we all know that is in D Dorian would be Miles Davis. So what?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah.
I think it's a. Or something like that.
Yeah. So what in a Dorian mode? Dorian mode is very versatile. It can do things like that. Like you say, it can do those Irish jigs. If you want to hear examples of those, then just go download some of Jasper Cole's music on iTunes, and you'll get a very clear idea.
I could recommend a few.
Yeah. It's also got a real. I mean, to me, it can have a real medieval quality to it. Kind of a Knights of the Round Table kind of.
Scarborough Fair came up on the
Scarborough Fair, yeah.
So Scarborough Fair is like. what adds a little bit of interest to what would have been a minor scale is that sharpened 6. So. 5, 7, 1, 7, 5, 6. There's that sharp 6, 4, 5.
Yeah, so Dorian, really fun, really versatile.
It's one of the prettier modes, I think. It's
so,
like
yeah.
you're hearing something minor, and then all of a sudden your eyebrow raises up a little bit. That was when the 6 raised.
Yeah, it was when the 6.
Something, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Then there's Phrygian Mode.
Oh, wait. There's one more Dorian thing I think was cool. Oh, Light My Fire by the Doors.
Okay.
Dorian, doors.
Dorian. Yeah.
There
Nice.
you go. The little mnemonic device to help you remember that. Carry on, sir.
Moving on, Phrygian Mode.
The third mode.
The third mode.
Phrygian with a P, by the way. I guess we never said
with
that.
a PHY.
P-H-Y.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, P-H-R-Y.
PHRY.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah. So Phrygian Mode. Phrygian with a PHRY.
Uh-huh.
It is most recognizable, I think, for the half step that is between its first and second notes. This. Right?
Yeah, it's just got that kind of, like I said, exotic, to me, Middle Eastern or the social, or the pop culture stereotype
Of like Middle Eastern music, yeah.
If you're watching Aladdin,
Yeah.
or something, you'll probably hear this kind of stuff. To me, in that way, it very much stands out from the other modes.
Yeah.
So to me, it's the most kind of exotic, weird kind of.
Definitely.
Maybe not the most weird. We'll talk about the Locrian mode in a bit, right?
Right. Yeah. If you like to think of it this way, you can think of the Phrygian mode as a minor scale with the second note lowered a half step. So instead of minor scale, Phrygian mode.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one little note makes all the difference.
Yeah, really. It's pretty fun, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. As far as Phrygian, there's not a whole lot of examples, man. The one that a lot of people know is the White Rabbit.
Yeah.
So their bassist, Jack Cassidy, is doing this kind of number. And so forth, kind of back and forth between those that flat second and I guess the final,
Yeah.
such and such airplane.
Yeah.
Jefferson Airplane, we can say the name of it. Yeah, man. So there's really, other than that, there's not a lot of pop culture references. Do you know of any good classical pieces that were done in Phrygian we can cite?
I mean, there are a lot of medieval music and chants and things.
Okay, so maybe some. A lot of times when you hear these Gregorian chants, maybe you'll be hearing Phrygian.
Listen for that half step that we'll call it Phrygian.
Because otherwise it's probably an Aeolian or Dorian.
Yeah. It's really it's sort of the typical sound for Spanish flamenco music too.
Okay. So.
Yeah, like go up to G. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, get those high strings in there with the little hand flourish. That was
flamenco.
Yeah. So yeah, I always think of Phrygian mode as flamenco music and death metal.
Cool.
for whatever reason.
No, I bet because of that, because of those weird flats. I think it is
because of the weird flats. Yeah,
death
probably.
metal.
Yeah.
Doesn't sit right.
Then we have Lydian mode. If you like to think about it this way, you can think of Lydian mode as a major scale. So this is, and I'll, for example, just play D major, just to mess things up. Right? So you can just think of a major scale.
Just to show we can do Lydian in something other than F.
Yeah. And play the D major, play that major scale, but raise the fourth scale degree by a half step. So you then get Lydian Mode. And this still works. If I said, D is the fourth note of what major scale, well, I would get A. And then if I plugged in the key signature of A, I would end up playing that same scale. It's just the difference between that and D major is that one sharp, right? So we're just raising the fourth scale degree by a half step to get D Lydian. And it has a really sort of unfocused quality.
Yeah.
It's because of the half step between scale degree 4 and scale degree 5, which I think is sort of competing for tension and release, competing for desire to resolve with a leading tone 7 to 1. So you kind of got both of those going on.
Yeah.
Because
we all decided that 4, the regular 4, perfect fourth, makes a good subdominant.
Yes.
But now that's been messed with.
Yeah, so now you don't know if you're going subdominant to dominant or dominant to tonic. Just if you're playing with it,
And if you're not really counting and just listening, you might have thought you heard like a diminished, like a flat 5, even though it was a sharp 4. Same note, you'll hear that tritone situation.
Right, yeah, like in Maria from West Side Story, right? Yeah. Or in certain other beloved cartoons that we all know.
First few notes of
Yeah, there you go.
That's about all I'll do with that one. Oh, another cartoon.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Here's George Jetson. Or is it Meet the Jetsons? The Jetsons.
I don't know. I watched the Flintstones, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I wasn't a big Hanna-Barbera fan, really, in general.
I kind of wasn't either.
They had laugh tracks. I didn't appreciate that.
Was it the laugh tracks?
Yeah, that's what I didn't like about it. It's like, don't you tell me when to laugh.
Don't you tell me when to laugh.
Tell the grown-ups when to laugh.
Bugs Bunny didn't need a laugh track, damn it. Yeah, that was just hilarious.
Yeah, don't tell the kids when to tell the grown-ups when to laugh. Don't tell the kids when to laugh. Our souls haven't been tainted yet. Everything's great and beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, where do we go there?
We are at Mixolydian.
Well, as far as wrapping up the Lydian, let me ask you this quick question here. Lydian, the fourth scale mode.
Mm-hmm.
If I did want to do something in the Lydian mode, and what chord might I be playing over the tonic? Just like an F major? Or I'm sorry, the major chord of whatever the mode is. I mean, yeah, just kind of.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about soloing later on.
Okay.
But anyways, carry on, man.
Where are we? Mixolydian.
Yep, mode 5.
Mode 5. And this is also very similar to the major scale, but we have lowered the 7th scale degree. So instead of playing, which is major, we play, which is Mixolydian. Yeah.
What can we say about that? To me, it sounds very close to the major scale.
Very close to the major scale.
Ionian Mode.
Yeah, rock musicians kind of like this a lot.
Oh, like Skynyrd? Leonard Skynyrd?
Yeah. Yeah.
Such as,
Yeah, there you go. Turn it up.
And the melody somewhere there's very much a Mixolydian feel.
Yeah.
That one.
That's a very Mixolydian. Like major, it can sound happy and it can sound upbeat. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as much.
There's that 1 minute where it gets a little serious, that one little moment where it gets that flat 7.
Yeah.
And for that matter, I imagine it's a great mode to use when you're soloing over the 5 chord.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Who else, man? Speaking of Irish and Celtic music. The bagpipes.
Right.
Is tuned in a Mixolydian mode.
Oh, yeah.
B flat Mixolydian.
It's tuned to B flat Mixolydian. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
A few cents between B flat and A, actually.
Okay.
It's actually just a little bit off, and it kills me.
Pythagorean tuning.
Maybe they were sticking with more of the Pythagorean tuning. I don't know.
It's a very ancient instrument.
It is, totally. I mean, even before Ireland or Scotland had their hands on it. So, yes, it's like still kind of happy, but slightly more serious. Is kind of the way I think about it. Lowrider. Doo 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 doo.
Oh, can we play that?
Um,
You play it. You've got a stringed instrument. There you go.
something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I'll get it right.
Yeah.
I'll
Anyway.
pull out my bass for that one. Sweet Child of Mine.
I could play that on guitar.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You want to play it on this guitar?
Why not? I'll show off a little bit.
Show the students.
I learned Sweet Child of Mine long before I learned what a Mixolydian mode was, but... Ah, come on.
You need to pick.
Nope. Anyway, yeah. That takes me back to, well, never you mind how far back that takes me.
Lovely. So there's 2 sweet songs, Sweet Child of Mine and Sweet Home Alabama. There's your couple of...
And there's your
Mixolydian
Mixolydian mode. There must be something sweet about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving up from this one, the next one, the 6th mode, Aeolian, is just the minor scale, right? And we've talked about there's natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor. Aeolian conforms to the natural minor scale.
Okay.
Because it is a permutation of the major scale, right? And we've covered this.
The relative
Minor, yes. Yeah. So we can probably, you want to skip that one?
Oh, just go ahead and play it for the heck of it.
All right, you want to just play something just playing anything in a minor key. Yeah.
Anything in a minor key, in which there's no shortage of examples.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually something I'm composing right now.
Okay.
So, and I thought this was kind of neat. Hold on, let me get my pedal going. There.
That's yours, huh?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, so Aeolian mode is just natural minor. Just any place where is the same thing. That brings us to this.
Just a couple more pop examples for that.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know if we brought this up just yet, but Ionian scale with flat 3, flat 6, flat 7 is the Aeolian or the natural minor. If you want to look at it that way. Doesn't help you with your key signatures, but... Not per se. You've probably all heard House of the Rising Sun.
Oh gosh, yes, how could we forget?
Yeah, that was by the Animals. Another one would be Losing My Religion by R.E.M. Very much a minor song.
Very much a minor key song, yeah.
And just one more for good balance. Sweet Dreams, the Eurythmics.
I can't do it. Never mind.
Everyone's pretty familiar with this. Sweet dreams I made.
If I had my bass, I could do it.
Yeah. So yeah, man, there's the 6th mode, Aeolian.
Yeah, and then that leads us to the 7th, Locrian.
And Matt, not for the life of me could I find really any great examples of that Locrian mode.
I don't think I know a super good parallel way to think of it either. You are, from the minor mode, you are flatting the 2nd and also flatting the 5th. So, and that's what makes it really messed up. Because it doesn't really have a 5th. Like, this would be tonic to dominant motion, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have that note. That note is here, so.
Yeah.
You hear it in jazz solos sometimes, people who are deliberately using the Locrian mode to get that sound, I don't think people just sort of naturally fall to the Locrian mode very much.
In trying to research it, a lot of people kind of tend to comment that it's more of a theoretical mode than a musical mode. So to speak.
More of a theoretical than a musical mode, huh?
And that it's not really used in a lot of music or in a lot of melodies.
I've used it, but I'm crazy and weird and theoretical. So that...
people get kind of crazy, but as far as things people can relate to and things that are kind of recognizable, man, if you go and listen to "Army of Me" by Bjork, that's like the one.
Is that like the one Locrian mode in all of pop music?
Yeah, right. So surely it's got a unique sound to it.
Well, Bjork certainly has a unique sound.
She does. So, but what else can help us with? I mean, as far as this, okay, it does kind of share the Phrygian feel because of that flat second.
Yes.
Right?
And adds to that the flat fifth feel of nothing but Locrian.
Well, Lydian Esh, because there's
Lydian
that tritone.
Esh, well, Lydian has a sharp fourth, not a flat fifth.
Yeah, but it's
Lydian
still
will
that
also
tritone.
have a perfect fifth, though, so it'll have at least a certain amount of stability compared to the Locrian mode.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Locrian is just a transient thing, man.
Can you do me a solid?
Yes, sir.
Can you play me an E Phrygian and then play me an E Locrian, or B Phrygian, whichever's most comfortable?
So, E Phrygian. And let's see if I can do E Locrian really quick. So that would be F major. So that would be. So yeah, the difference between Phrygian and Locrian is that flat fifth.
Huh.
So one more time, E Phrygian.
Uh-huh.
E Locrian.
Wow. So similar. I guess the
They're
Locrian,
very well. There's only one note difference.
the Locrian more so than Phrygian has that kind of bewildered feel to it. That meandering Lydian feel to it. Almost whole tony.
Yeah.
Kind of. And we'll get into the whole tone scale later on.
Yeah, we'll get into the whole tone
But
scale.
just so people can get an idea of how disorienting the whole tone scale is, could you real quick play up and down a whole tone scale?
Yeah, whole tone scale is like
Yeah, I almost fell over when you did that.
Yeah, it's the beginning dream sequence scale.
Yeah. So I feel like
right.
the Lydian, really, the first four notes of the Lydian scale are the whole tone scale.
Lydian
right
or
there.
Locrian?
Lydian. Which is why I'm kind of comparing it to the Locrian.
Oh,
here.
okay.
And then it's got that Phrygian feel. So Locrian to me has kind of got a little bit of both of those elements. That
Yeah.
exoticness of the Phrygian feel.
Yeah,
And the
meanderingness.
Yeah, of the Lydian feel.
That lack of a perfect fifth, it's hard to overstate what that does to that scale.
Yeah.
It just makes it just sets it off kilter, you know.
Well, at this point, we're back
to Ionian, and yeah, so we're pretty done.
We are back to Ionian. I'm feeling kind of celebratory because we did cover a lot of grounds, and I feel that by the time you have finished this podcast, I hope that you've got a good understanding of what the modes are and how they feel.
And you know, we should probably issue like a semi-apology for waiting this long to cover modes.
Yeah.
If you've just been dying for us to say talk about modes, well, number one, you should have emailed us and told us that.
Oh, we would have responded very quickly.
Yes, we would have. That would have been the next thing that happened. Yeah. But if you have been waiting for us to do modes, we apologize. I think we're kind of waiting for them to sort of come up naturally, and then we kind of said, so when are we going to do modes? And it was like, oh crap, we haven't done that yet.
But I think they're still in a good place in our theory sequence. It's not like it's crazy.
Nah. It's good. It's good.
I do have a few closing questions before we do a wrap up.
Sure.
About the modes. We were talking about this before we started recording the podcast. Why would you say, is there a distinction between the actual terminology, mode versus scale?
Yes.
Okay.
A scale can be anything. A scale is really just a collection of notes.
Okay.
The major scale is one very common example of a scale, but a scale can be anything. It can be a major scale, it can be a whole tone scale.
Six notes in the whole tone scale, right?
6 notes in the whole tone scale, 5 notes in the pentatonic scale, 8 notes in the octatonic scale. There was actually a composer named Oliver Messiaen who invented his own scales just for the fun of it. Yeah, so, you can... a scale can be sort of any collection of notes. A mode in my mind, when you say the word mode, what you mean is specifically a permutation of the major scale, specifically one of those 7 scales that has come from moving around where you started on a major scale. I guess in general, you could take the word mode to sort of mean some collection of notes that is some permutation of some other collection of notes in that same way. 7
notes specifically for the modes?
I think of the modes almost with a capital M. As these are the modes.
Okay, yeah.
And when you say, if you were say, this piece is composed modally, I would assume you meant, well, you must be in Dorian or Phrygian or something like that, right?
Okay.
Like I said, in general, I guess, like for example, if you took one of Oliver Messiaen's scales and then shifted where you started the way we did with the major scale, you would be creating modes, and I've got my air quotes going here.
Oliverian modes.
Yeah. Messianic
modes.
Modes to that artificial scale, but mainly I think of modes as those permutations. And a scale can be a lot of things.
Right.
The major scale is just an extraordinarily common example of a scale.
Or of a mode, or both in that case.
Or both in that case, right.
All right. I almost let you get by without me complicating it at the end.
Oh. That's okay. I like complicated.
What else? And just to confirm, do we use similar methods to ID modes as we do to ID scales?
I mean, think about just like relative minors, each one of these modes is going to share a key signature with some major scale.
Correct.
Right? So A Mixolydian has 2 sharps, same as D major.
Yeah.
Right? So we can verify it that way. Looking at music in context, well, then is it D major or B minor or A Mixolydian or E Dorian or what the hell is it? Is always going to be about context.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, if you're analyzing Mozart or Schumann or somebody like that, you probably don't have to worry too much about it being in A Mixolydian. It's probably going to be in D major or B minor.
I see, yeah.
But, you get into the 20th century composers, and that might be something you have to look at. You have to look at where is the quote-unquote final of that mode? Where are we stopping on,
So prior to the 20th century, there was much more of a major-minor tonality to a lot of the music.
There
Western
was,
music,
yeah.
strictly.
No qualifier necessary. No pretty much about it.
All right.
There was major-minor tonality to music. Now having said that, I'm going to go back and contradict myself a little bit. The modes did leave their mark, especially when you talk about Baroque music.
Yeah.
I think I wrote a paper once on this idea of transitioning from modes to tonal music in early Baroque music.
I'd like to check that out.
I'll see if I can still find a copy. But there is that. And then, you have examples of things like Beethoven taking this gig where he's doing arrangements of folk songs, like English folk songs. And of course, folk music tends to be a lot more modal.
Right.
Anyway, so Beethoven is sort of having to deal with these melodies that are very modal in construction. So, you see those kind of things, But by and large, we're talking major and minor scales in Western tonal harmony, at least until the 20th century. Now, in popular music, modes are all the rage.
Yeah.
People talk about modes all the time. Modes are as important as I dare say a lot of pop musicians and a lot of rock musicians and what have you, and folk musicians play in modes more often than they play in major or minor scales. The Ionian and Aeolian modes are not particularly prevalent in what they're doing. If you're playing bluegrass or you're playing rock or something like that,
So here's a fun fact. I came across this article in the Huffington Post by Helen Lee Lin, and it was based on a study from Eglin Schellenberg and Christian von Cheve.
Okay.
Cheve. And it's suggesting that the major modes, and I assume when they say major, they might also be including Mixolydian.
Sure.
Whereas in minor, they might be including Dorian. Also.
Or even Phrygian, yeah.
But we're back in the 60s, 85% of the pop music was actually in that major keys or major modes.
Wow. That's a lot.
85%.
85% is most pop music was in major, yeah.
Whereas today, 40% is in major.
Yeah,
and a majority is now in minors or different minor-based modes, you know?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So this is not entirely germane to our discussion on modes, but in the same study, they also found that the songs have slowed down a little bit, where the beats per measure average was 116 back in the 60s. Now it's 100. So sadder songs, even back in the 60s, sadder songs were still done in like major keys. More
yeah,
so.
like I think of the theme song to MASH.
Yeah. Was it Suicide is
Painless, and very, very dark song set in a major key.
Yeah.
They kind of knew what they were doing with that. I mean, we can talk about, the artistry of songwriting, but, that wasn't a mistake, they're contrasting.
Well, yes, there's that counterpoint of having, like, not the counterpoint we were just talking about, but the counterpoint of having a happy song or a sad message within this happy. Yeah. It made me think about these Mexican drug ballads. Have we talked about those? It's like festive horns polka. But Miguel lost his eye while trying to sneak over the border fence. Or died in the desert in the sand in the hot sun.
Yeah, or Che Guevara is running for his life, or things like that. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. But that we digress a little.
We did digress, but this is something I want people to hear about because I heard about these drug ballads on this fantastic podcast, and I can't remember if I've mentioned it yet.
Okay.
And it's no longer running, but you can still find it. You can still download it. It's called Stuff from the B-Side.
Okay.
And it's from that whole Stuff You Should Know, Stuff They Don't Want You to Know company.
Yeah.
And this is all stuff. This is all music stuff. And they even have episodes where they talk about theory and intervals, not on the magnificent level that we do, of course.
Oh, of course not.
But they talk about all kinds of cool topics,
Yeah.
So check it out, Stuff from the B-Side. That's a pretty good one. Fun facts for you.
I will definitely have to check that out.
Do you think it's time to do a quick recap?
Let's do a quick recap.
What you got, man?
All right. So the modes are basically permutations of a major scale. So if I go from C to C, playing all the white keys, I've played C major, also known as C Ionian. If I take those exact same notes, but start and end on D, I have played D Dorian.
Mm-hmm.
If I start on E, I have played E Phrygian. If I start on F, I have played F Lydian. If I start on G, I am playing G Mixolydian. If I start on A, I am playing A Aeolian, which is also the relative minor, A minor. And if I start on B, I am playing B Locrian. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh modes. What I've done is just shifted where I'm starting and stopping along a major scale. And that's how these modes are created.
And whatever your starting note is, the mode 1 will always be Ionian, so forth.
Yeah, right. Mode 1 is Ionian is the first mode, Dorian is the second mode. So all of these, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, all of this new stuff, can be transposed to any note on the keyboard in the same way we transpose the major scales and then later transpose the minor scales. See episodes 5 and 8. Mm-hmm. Transposing them around the circle of fifths. The order of sharps would still be the same. The order of flats would still be the same. And so there is a mode. There is a Dorian for every note that starts on every note. There is a Phrygian that starts on every note. If you want to figure these out very quickly, the note of your mode is the X note of some major scale, X being the number of the mode. So if you want to figure out, for example, A Phrygian, A is the third note of some major scale. That happens to be F, right? A is the third note in F major. So plug in the key signature for F major, B flat. Play A to A, but play B flat instead of B natural. And you will have A Phrygian. And that works for any note in any mode.
Unfortunately, we can use the major scale for all of these. We don't need to even worry about the minor because the
Right.
minor
The minor is just a mode in
is
and
another
of itself.
mode itself. So the
yeah,
major scale can be your ultimate
your
starting
focal
point. Yeah.
And if you don't like thinking about it that way, you can think about Dorian mode as a natural minor with a raised scale degree 6.
Mm-hmm.
You can think about Phrygian mode as a natural minor with a lowered scale degree 2.
Mm-hmm.
You can think about Lydian as a major scale with a raised 4, meaning raised it a half step.
Yeah,
right?
sharp.
Yeah, sharp, or if it's flat, make it natural.
Yeah, okay.
You can think about Mixolydian as a major scale with a lowered 7th degree. You can think about Aeolian as the natural minor scale, because that's what it is. And then you can think about Locrian as a minor scale with a lowered 2nd scale degree and also a lowered 5th scale degree, if that makes it. So G Dorian is G minor, but with a raised 6th scale degree. So take that E flat that you would play in G minor and play E natural.
Yeah. Cool sound.
And there you go. And modes are fun, and they're in a lot of different stuff, and you really need to know how to manage them.
And what was that fantastic mnemonic device that you showed me?
I don't prefer large meals at lunch.
I don't prefer large meals at lunch.
Yeah.
Boom.
Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian.
Perfect.
All right, so there's the modes.
What more can we say about that? I think we said plenty, huh?
I think we're pretty good, yeah.
Awesome. It was long overdue, and I'm glad we did that. Good discussion, man.
Glad to get to it.
So, like Johann Sebastian, we'll be back.
We will be back.
Can you tell what mode our opening track was in? How about the one you're listening to now? Let us know by writing us at info@musicstudent101.com. Don't forget to tell your musician friends about us and rate this podcast on your preferred podcasting app.